Hello, historical people. It's Wes in the garage again. I put a video up the other day, or yesterday, or whatever, for mainly aimed at the Order of the Blade for different longsword guards that we just don't really look into. And I kind of want to expand on that. One person liked it, so that's enough for me. We'll expand on it, okay? So I talked about the Crown Guard, okay? I talked about the Ox Guards, okay? Two really useful positions that we don't really teach in the syllabus, or we don't really teach them. Okay, we touch on them, part of our counters. You'll move through them naturally because you just do. And I find that something the older sources got right was they talk about these specific positions in a lot more detail. Okay, and that's one thing we do kind of overlook, because I think when you do go into learning this stuff, if you learn about a guard, okay, you can sometimes learn not necessarily incorrect things, but you can learn a reliance on positions. I remember when I first started reading the I-33 stuff, I would just like make sure to sit too perfectly in one area, when realistically these guards, as we call them, these positions, okay, they're less about standing there for an hour and a half to then launch things from. Yes, you launch things from there, so they are something you should be drilling moves from, okay, and options from. But let's say I'm in a combat, I'm not necessarily just going to sit like that, okay? I'm going to move the point, so I'm moving from fools to flug or whatever to bomb tag to whatever, maybe into rocks for a minute. I'll be moving around, okay? I'll be moving from guard to guard. We call this concept guard dancing, okay? And actually, we do run sessions on guard dancing, but we never actually specify these are a list of guards, okay, that are worth using. So I guess this video is going to be a bit of a rundown on guard positions that are available, worth doing. I won't go into too many fucking crazy ones, but we'll just go through them all, okay? Last video for Ox and Crown specifically, but we'll run through them. So Crown is a really good sort of forward position for setting up something like a Zwerk, something like a quick snap cut. Okay, I throw my sword up and in, so if a downward strike was coming, I'm up there nice and high, and I've got my strong bind, I've got leverage, I can, Zwerk round, or I can leave the blade and snap cut through like a Duplary. Ox is kind of a similar position, okay, except it's one-sided, so you're either oxing to the right, oxing to the left, okay. And what this does is, again, if I was to throw an uppercut into my ox, I've got my point on line there, really nice and strong. And if someone was attacking, I can sort of manipulate it into a hanging position if I want to, but out shoulder height, not up here like you sometimes see. That can work or whatever. So next one, you have a hanging position, or your pendant guard, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, I like to do mine up here like this because it turns around nicely. Okay, I'll notice through all of these, I'm holding the pommel or just above the pommel for maximum sort of leverage. But yeah, there or there. And what this does is it cuts off a huge line of my body. Now, with a hanging guard, there's so much variation. So long as that handle is above your head, just about, and you go in and you've got the ability, then this is all hanging. Okay. I just get to manipulate where I think my opponent's going to go. And for us in the order, this is where our sort of high roller really comes into play. If you're not coming into a hanging position, you're not going to be able to pull off your high roller. So hanging guard is integral to your high roller thing, which for those of you that don't know, high roller is, let's say I'm down here, someone throws a strike, I come up and roll round, okay? So that I block that strike and use that strike to send my sword over and towards my opponent. So your hanging position, okay, you want to be practicing getting into these hanging guards. So that is, if this is your ox, the hanging guard is sort of just your elbows curled in, okay, thereabouts. There's a lot of variation. Some people come around the side like that, around the side like that, and each to their own, whatever. It's not a position you're going to just be like, oh, I'm coming at you in hanging guard. You can if you want. Another benefit to these sort of hanging positions, as soon as your sword is up here and no longer tip up, as soon as it's tipped down, then your strong profile is high up. That should be self-explanatory. But if I'm here and I take a big shot up high, they could collapse my sword. You're not going to collapse this because all of my strong is up there. That's a bit of mechanics around it. So another very common one that we actually see a lot in the order is your fool's guard, whatever. Sometimes it's off to the side, sometimes it's just down here, like crouched. You might see some Furists like this. Fool's guard is a cool guard. A lot of people like it because it's relaxed. You're not tired. It's not hard to keep up. I mean, nowadays, like just holding the sword anyway, it's not particularly difficult. But I remember a time. But anyway, the purpose of having the sword low, obviously, this naturally happens after a while. Okay, after cuts, after big hewing cuts and things like that. But when you're down here, basically what you're doing, you wouldn't do this up close necessarily. Like, if you're fighting and you stayed up close, you're not going to suddenly just drop all your defenses. This is something for when you are out of combat. Okay, so I'm nice and far away from my opponent, and what I'm really doing is saying, your turn, motherfucker, like, come at me, bro. Because let's face it, I'm not realistically going to get the first hit. And if I do, if they're coming from a higher position, that is technically going to have more force, gravity on its side, be able to access a more lethal target quicker than from down here, okay? Obviously, you have options if you want to do an initial attack from here, straight into your ox, and bang, or cuts to the legs, flicks up to the arms and things like that. There's no problem with them. But realistically, what I'll be doing is waiting for them to attack. Then I'm going to explode up. And this is the one thing I think we neglect a little bit, is a lot of people will sit in the Fool's Guard, but then when they go to action, whatever they're trying to do, they'll either just go straight into an attack or they'll whatever. They're not actually sure where to go from. So from here, your crown is a perfect spot. Okay, equally, either of your oxes, well, maybe not either, but coming across body or kicking those up and twisting the arms, they're good positions to go into from your low guard. Okay, explode up into a cron, deliver your zwerk or whatever, or come into an ox and deliver a thrust, something like that. They're really good positions to get into. Obviously, from down here, you've got your flug guard anyway. If they come in hot at you, but realistically, keep your distance, and then as they attack, I'm in there, and then I'm just working out or whatever. Obviously, if you're going to do something like that, if you're going to zwerk, you want to sort of pivot step with that. But anyway, that's a different topic. So yeah, the other guard position, and it's a position, it's less of a guard. You're not really protecting anything, but this one here, sort of vom tag. Some people call it a hawk, some people call it whatever. Okay, doesn't provide me a lot of defense. There's the occasional time where you'll attack and then something will come and you'll accidentally block it, or you'll obviously did it on purpose. But it's not particularly protective. But what it does do is get everything out of the way. Okay, gets everything out of the way. So if I've had an exchange, I come back, my whole body's out of the way. I've not left my arms out there as a target, etc., etc. So that's a good benefit to this one. My opponent doesn't necessarily know my range with this, And what it does is allows me nice, quick lever strikes. So I get the full leverage of the sword, okay, and the full distance and explosion of the body and the sword. It's really good. When you're attacking from here, think like you're casting out like a fishing rod. So I'm casting that out, okay, and that provides me with a really good cross section of the blade. So if I did need to move up or whatever, I've got options. And yeah, that's kind of it. They are the main ones. They're mostly found in like German sources and stuff. In terms of what you should practice, basically all of them. Okay, like best thing to do is work from where you are at the minute. If you really like sitting down low in a fool's guard, okay, then just understand that you're giving your first initiative away, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, okay. But notice you will need a secondary position, okay, to move into. So I need to maximize my possibilities, okay. So if you like fighting down low, learn the cron or the crown, learn the oxes. If you're sort of in the middle and you're not sure, make sure you're using I didn't really talk about the flugs, the plows, okay. But basically, the basic guard we sort of teach is central. The plow, you just tuck it into your hip, basically. So you've got the mechanics of your body or the structure of your body behind the sword. And this is basic stuff that other clubs will fucking learn day one. That we just don't do, really. We don't really explicitly talk about. So it's definitely worth knowing. But yeah, you tuck this in, you've got a lot more strength. I like to think of it as the stronger my blade extends a little bit. So I've actually got more strong. So when I do block, I'm here, it's nice and strong, I'm couched, and that gives me the opportunity to explode out, okay? Whereas if I'm always blocking in long point, I've then got to do wrist manipulations and stuff, which can work for what we're doing for fencing and things. You know, you can definitely generate force, or if you're happy to come back and whatever, that's fine. Just know you do have these options that keep you nice and close and ready to explode out. But yeah, so if you like to keep a middle-ish guard, okay, then really think about picking a side. And with all your guards, realistically, even with your hanging to an extent, you know, you want to pick a side because you'll be stronger on one side than you will be floating in the middle. That doesn't mean that floating in the middle isn't a valid tactic or whatever. Realistically, if you're playing a thrusting game, thrusting focus sort of longsword, then being in the middle can be quite beneficial, okay? Provided your opponent isn't really slamming down powerful hits, or you're able to just get these thrusts in before they're able to mess you up in the first place. Because realistically, if I've got my range there, telling you where I am, and then that sword's engaged and I'm in, I'm going to have some good luck with that, especially if I can actually manipulate it into a stronger position, which is ideal, either a hanging or an ox if you're thrusting. Realistically, you can, like I just showed, get away with just a straight forward thrust. But if you really want a stronger position, because let's say I get deflected off that, I'm kind of fucked. But if I thrust in and turn that into a hanging position, obviously I've just skewered myself on this guy, but I can control that blade, gives me a strong bind, they're less likely to move me offline. Equally, if I'm here and I go into a ox position, it's the same deal, okay? From here, if I just come out, as you can see, like that, come over, it just gives you better structure. Hanging's probably my favorite in that instance. So, yeah. So then again, I think the term guard puts a bit of a over-reliance on these positions being completely defensive. They're best known as just positions, I suppose, in this case, because they have different situational advantages, okay? So if I am thrusting, these are perfect places to be. If I am looking at defending a side, perfect place to be. Good example, so if I am in Ox, for example, I can move to hang in to guard my other area instead of worrying about coming over like this. My tip is quickly accessible. Same if I'm low, my tip can shoot straight up into a crown. Okay, this is kind of more where I'd like to see people thinking with their defenses and things like that. You can go from strong position to strong position to strong position, as opposed to just trying to meet that sword and working it out on the fly. If you've got some sort of pre-baked, pre-known spots to go to, you'll have a much easier time thinking through what you're doing and performing things in the moment. It will take some practice and getting the positions right. I mean, there is a right and wrong, but there isn't a right and wrong. Like my Ox here will be different to other people's Ox. Some people might come higher, some people might come closer. Okay, with the crown, some people might be high, like really high. Some people might just be like this. Whatever. Obviously, you've got people that thumb grip and stuff. And with the flugs, some people will just cast the arms all the way out and create a structure out here as well. And there is variation. So what I'm showing you isn't the Bible, isn't whatever. You know, you can play around with things, but just look at everything you're doing, figure out what it is you're trying to achieve, okay? And then practice positions that allow that to happen more often, okay? Your highest probable positions. So again, this video is getting ridiculously long and ridiculously tedious now, but fuck it. If I want to land Zwerkaus, okay, I have the option of just whenever something happens, explode up and Zwerkau in, okay? I could try that, okay? You see this fairly often. It's cool. I can come up, I can do that, and if that didn't work, I'm going to do that, okay? This is one thing I don't. You probably heard me speak about it before. I'm not a huge Zwerk fan because after you're in, people just come straight up, and this is a good position, but this whole ground before it, you're just totally vulnerable on the hands and stuff. If somebody just fucking ducks down, I mean, maybe they'll still get slapped if they duck down, but whatever. Obviously, you can Zwerk in at angles and things like that anyway. But if that's something you're trying to perform, then from your low guard, you definitely want this crown practiced, because if you can get the control there and then start sending your attacks out, you'll be much better off. If you're just coming straight up and in, okay, you'll find more problems. Likewise, if you're a hand hunter, okay, then maybe just staying in this forward guard does work for you 90% of the time. But when they do push in, it might be worth knowing, oh fuck, I need to chuck this up here, or I need to couch back in and resist that little onslaught. So it's just little things like that, little backup plans and little secondary positions. Okay, you can have a favorite guard, that's not a problem. By all means, if you love sitting like this, sit like that, it's not a problem. I like standing like this for no fucking reason because it's useless. Okay, but it makes people go, oh, does he have a plan? No, I never have a plan. But you want to know where to move through and have options should you need them, okay? Because if you don't, you're gonna be trying to figure it out there and then, okay? If you know I can go here and from here I can walk in the thrust, that's at least an option that you know about, okay? And that's in your subconscious somewhere. So the more you practice working from these positions, the more you will just be able to pull it off as and when, okay? Talk about situational shit at the time, I suppose. But yeah, that's my kind of compendium on guards that you need to know that we don't teach. So hopefully that's useful for some of you. It's a bit of a fucking long, boring ass video. So apologies and bear with me. But yeah, hopefully you found something useful in that. Let me know if you want to learn about other weapons or other guards or other bullshit. Okay. See you later. See you in a bit. 20 fucking minutes.